Ladies and gentlemen, I've hacked into the subnet user mask.2.55. All so that I can beam this podcast directly in your ears. That's right, I'm Van Lee and I'm a hacker. I'm Hacker Man, Hacker Van. What's that, Spencer? It doesn't sound like hacking without clackety noises?
Well, that's what I was thinking, but I would never accuse you of not hacking.
I screwed up and didn't hit record, I think. And anyway, we're having to redo the intro, so that's why it's really weird. But that was Spencer Hendricks. We've got Brian Vaughn over here. What does he have to say?
Once we're done with this episode, all those crooks and criminals and ne'er-do-wells will be behind bars or behind... Well, I don't know what you'd call it. Well, I won't spoil the ending.
That's right. When we last discussed Neil Breen's Fateful Findings with you, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between out there, Jim, our friend Jim, he had revealed his great secret. Wait, Jim didn't reveal that he's been hacking the government secrets?
Maybe every character has been in this movie. I don't think Jim is a hacker.
I don't think you'd call the side view mirror of his Camaro a government secret.
Well, clearly someone hacked into my notes and fucked that up because what I'm trying to say is Dylan, who's Neil Breen's character.
Well, that's your problem, is you just want to say Neil Breen.
Yeah, I certainly do. He has hacked into all of the government secrets and has some damning information. What that information is, we are not privy to.
The first time I saw this movie, though, I thought, I wonder what it'll be. I didn't think that ever again.
You didn't think that nothing is what it will be? Well, we're going to find out maybe what it is. We're going to find out all about the systems of power who will suffer and fall because of this information. We're also going to find out about Dylan's girlfriend, Emily, who is currently struggling with a little bit of addiction to Dylan's pain medication.
I mean, she did dig it out of the toilet.
She's about to have some of her finest moments coming up here.
Get the Oscar ready.
And Neil Breen has one of what I think is the most underrated lines in the movie in response to this problem, but we'll get to it.
We'll have to hear what that is. But we've also got Amy and Jim, aforementioned Jim, who is not hacking. He is cleaning his Camaro, his hot rod, his sports car. Amy doesn't like that, but also Jim wants sex with Amy, his wife, but she won't because she's got a bad back because of her bosoms. Either way, they're an unhappy couple. That's also going on in the background. But there's a little bit of a twist to that plot in that they have a daughter, possibly only a stepdaughter. It is not entirely clear. Allie.
We're presented with contradictory evidence.
She will eventually lead potentially to the downfall of our hero because of lust and an insatiable need to get a hold of Neil Breen's leathery grandma-like body. We'll see.
We'll find out.
Well, let's just get back into it, gentlemen. We got a lot to cover as we finish off final Fateful Findings, too.
Something with a bunch of Fs, Foo Fighters.
It's
or
stupid name, whatever.
Art Factory.
This is Dave Grohl in Fateful Findings.
I was thinking about how many different things in pop culture are FF and how no one thinks it's Fateful Findings.
Final Fantasy?
Yep, that was one I thought. There's another one, too, that was really prominent, but I don't remember it now.
I loved in Fateful Findings 10.
Is that the MMORPG?
No, that one isn't. This is pretty regular
Is that
JRPG. But Waka, he's a disciple of Yevon, and it gets to be pretty obnoxious as the game goes along, but his weapon is a ball. He hits people with a ball, and then there's Lulu, and she's somehow keeping that dress up, keeping those nipples covered, and the Riku and the owl bed. And anyway, there's a lot going on. I like that version of Fateful
I do
Findings.
wish there were somehow as many Fateful Findings as Final Fantasies.
There need to be.
What are there now, like 16?
They just released 16,
Wow.
correct. I don't play them anymore. I don't like the new direction they're in. I like the old RPG style. Now they're more action-oriented. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about Fateful Findings.
That hasn't ever stopped you with Metal Gear Solid.
Maybe that comes up later. Maybe it doesn't. We'll see.
Oh, is anyone in this movie involved with a Metal Gear Solid game?
Yeah, actually, Neil Breen plays Big Boss in Metal Gear Solid 5.
Actually, if anyone could be described as Snake Eater.
You were on a little bit of a dry spell with Solid Snake. I hadn't heard
That's
a
true.
reference. I forced one
You
in
did
last
it.
time, yeah. But there hasn't been too many of your doing it lately.
Well, in this movie, we open back up after Dylan's big reveal that he's got a bunch of government secrets, and his addicted girlfriend, Emily, she's here. She's on the phone talking to someone. We don't know who. And she is fucked up, man.
How can you actually tell?
Well, she's kind of lazy-eyed, and she wobbles a bit.
Right.
And then she tells whoever, you're right, no, that's actually her normally. But she tells whoever it is on the other end of the phone that Dylan stopped taking his meds. And she's saying this is like, oh no, this is trouble. Dylan stopped taking his meds. Can you get some for me?
Because, you can just call someone else's doctor and say, I would like their pills.
Now, David Lee seems like the kind of doctor who would do that.
He would.
You mean Dr. David S. Lee,
Yeah.
psychotherapist at Suite 1111?
I think he's clearly fishing for information on Dylan here and trading that intel for pills. Like, he'll give her pills if you tell me what's going on in Dylan's life.
Yeah, because he is really curious about Dylan. And the other thing is, I could envision David S. Lee, once 5 o'clock hits, he puts those pills in his briefcase and goes and sells them on street corners.
Well, we're quickly back at our old friend's place here. Dr. David S. Lee, psychotherapist, he sits at his giant conference room table and he asks Dylan, who's here at the opposite end, if he enjoys hanging out with him still. And Dylan kind of tells him no, but David says, well, let me help you. And then he waves a bunch of pills at Dylan, and Dylan says, no more pills. And then that is the end. That's no more of that.
Yeah, and I'll note one more time that Dr. David S. Lee covered in sweat.
Covered in boils, probably, too. Certainly has those old man liver freckles.
Any of the 12 plagues that man might undergo from God, he's undergoing them.
Lots of locusts in this room. Mm-hmm.
You can't see them, but they're under his clothes.
I do think this might be another thing Neil Breen pulled from his real life, where he went to a therapist once and the guy tried to get him on medication. And he was like, that's evil. I will not take your pills.
Yes. This is part of his puritanical streak. I think that, he either got a prescription that didn't work, or someone in his family, he felt they changed after taking pills, something like that.
He definitely is a bit of a teetotaler. He does drink beer, but I think he's a beer or alcohol only guy. Everything else is bad for you. He always has things about pills. He has things about any sort of mind-altering things.
And sex, too. He's definitely prudish or reluctant about sex in some way.
We're right back at Dylan's home, and he's yelling at Emily about something the audience doesn't quite know for sure, but then she confirms, which is that he somehow knows she's addicted to pills and is yelling at her for this. And they basically hold two separate conversations here. I'm certain they filmed several different scenes, mushed them together, but they do eventually talk about how he wants her to go to rehab for her pill addiction, and she says, no, it's my choice. I'm not going.
That is true.
Then,
interesting way to put it.
She's instantly on the phone and he's just tapping away on his laptop.
Real quick, I need to mention this line he says during their argument about the pills that just really, I love it so much. They're talking about a pill addiction they're both fully aware of, and Neil Breen says, your pill taking for pain relief has gotten out of control. He even says why.
So she's on the phone. He's there just typing away about government secrets. He looks over and says, I've got to get this work done. It's a tone that suggests he's no longer yelling at her, but is instead complaining about work.
And he doesn't mean to. It's the editing, like you said, Van, but it makes it seem like he could give a shit about whatever she's going through.
Out of nowhere, she sighs and angrily slams down her phone. She says loudly, my job sucks. And this is new because we didn't even know she had a job.
No, they never presented her that way.
And she says she doesn't like the people she works with. Okay, I get it. I don't like the people. I don't like you guys. His response to this is, I've got to get this work done. And then he goes right back to loudly slamming his fingers on his keyboard in that old laptop. But he doesn't actually do that. He doesn't get back to work. He doesn't start writing his next great big novel.
I don't think he's actually working on a novel.
What he actually does is this.
I've hacked into just about all the information I need. They have no idea. It's going to change the world as we know it. It's going to change everything. They have no idea.
The bank is failing.
I told you they're not holding the same conversation.
No, they sure aren't.
He cut up separate scenes, like you said, and he put them in the different order, and I don't think it even serves a purpose.
No. I think what happened is when you're editing these things in Premiere Pro, which apparently he uses, you have different lines for different video tracks. You can overlay them or whatever. I think he deleted a whole video track and everything shifted 5 minutes to the left. And he said, well, it doesn't make a difference. It's fine.
It kind of happens again later, too. And it makes me wonder, did he just delete something? Is it on purpose? Is he thinking a lot of directors these days like to mess with the chronology of a movie to kind of give the story a jarring feel. And I'm going to guess, whatever the case, it was not that last one.
I think he does still think that this is all logical stuff. And I don't know, it's just like he's an inhuman ghoul who is sent to the planet to destroy everyone, but got distracted by filmmaking.
Like some sort of demon said, I've noticed that humans like movies a lot. Can you stop that? Can you make it to where they don't anymore?
I think the way that Emily got victimized here makes me just really have a deep fondness for her, because she's screaming incoherently about banks, and her job, while Neil Breen's like, I'm hacking and I'm doing all kinds of secret stuff.
And this is just after talking about her pill addiction.
At this point, Emily is nuts the rest of the way.
Guys, he's hacked into about all the information he needs.
Another good thing is how he repeats twice how they have no idea, and then later admits to Leah towards the end that they probably know. Like, that's the thing, is
he
later
does
on.
that in the same sentence, and it's beautiful. However, I really like the idea of applying they have no idea on a meta level. As he's making this movie, he's like, no one who watches this is going to know what hit him.
Well, after yelling about the bank, for some reason, maybe she works at a bank.
She does.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Huh.
I think, or maybe I just made that
think possibly her and Amy work at the same bank, because doesn't Amy also mention she's tired from the bank or something?
That could be. Perhaps Amy, though, was just a customer. We don't know.
Well, Emily says she needs more pills and stronger ones at that. I hear you, girl. And then he just shakes his head and says, it's a crutch. Straighten your life out.
And again, I think he believes this wholeheartedly, that like mental anguish is not real and medication can't help.
But as with most addicts, when she doesn't get what she wants, she begins to lash out at the people around her.
Which I like.
So she says to him, what if all my addiction problems are your fault, huh?
Pretty valid in this case. It's Neil Breen.
He refutes her by mentioning how supportive he's been, by constantly telling her that he has to get this work done.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I'm always helping you. I'm busy.
Too focused on his work to pay attention to what's going on with his own spouse or girlfriend. I don't know.
But she does continue the verbal jabs and says she meant what she said earlier. It's your fault I take pills. When I guess it kind of is, because he had the pills first, but not what she means. He said he's the good guy, though, and he is a good guy in this scenario, of course. He's flawless. And he tells her he misses the girl he used to know. And he wants her to come back, and she snaps back, she's never coming back.
True.
So he half yells, let's talk, which is what they've been doing. And then she reaches out and they hold hands, and I guess they've solved the problem for now.
And I wondered if part of this was out of order too, because he says like, I've got work to do, I can't do this. And then he's like, let's talk.
If you're trying to have a conversation with someone that goes anything like this, can you imagine like the twists and how you would even approach from either of their perspectives at this point?
I would assume I had a stroke.
Yeah, or you'd be like, what button do I push to get it to say a different thing? It's not saying things that makes it's like a magic 8-ball that can talk.
It's like they ran it through Google Translate into several different languages and then put it back to English. It just doesn't quite gel.
I like the fact that maybe this whole reveal about Emily having this other life we don't know about, where she works at a failing bank. I'd like to think that also Dylan didn't know that about her.
Yeah, he didn't know she had a job. This could all be covered in the prequel that I now want, called Fateful Findings.
But then he's immediately back in his office, furiously typing, and she slams her hand on his desk. She's here, and she says, I'm done talking. And did she just need a few hours to figure out how to respond? Is that what this is?
I think so, yeah.
He quickly, and as quickly as a Breen can go, snatches her by the arm and drags her close to him.
And it is very slow and deliberate in his frail, delayed grandma way.
It's definitely the first part of a Resident Evil game when you're in the tutorial and they're teaching you the controls and the zombies are real slow. That's how he moved.
It's enough to be like, are you sure it's her that's on the pills?
He looks her dead in the eye and he says, really? And then he begins to just knock shit off of his desk. He's flinging papers. He's like a big playful cat. Laptops are being knocked off.
It is so weird. Maybe the weirdest scene in the movie.
But this simple act of love, guys, completely resets her attitude. She smiles ear to ear. She begins tugging at his shirt, ripping the fabric so it reveals a little bit more of his skeleton shoulder.
And they are giggling and playfully ripping each other's shirts back and forth as no one's ever done this.
Yeah, they embrace, they tickle, throw papers, giggle, rip shirts more, and finally kiss. Finally, he gets to return the favor now that his nipples are out. And he tugs on her shirt and pulls it all the way down to the nipple line, but then stops.
Then he stops. He says, oh, that would be rude of me. And this is what I mean about the male chest being treated the same as a woman's chest.
I think I agree with you overall, but what I think happened here is her shirt has a collar, it's a little sturdier, and he wasn't strong enough. to get it down.
Now that could be, he might have actually broken like a little bone on his wrist drying.
And he whimpers.
Yeah. And that's why she's having to get his shirt off by Hulk Hogan method.
But they kiss some more instead. That's what goes down. And with that storyline, I guess, resolved, it comes back a little bit, but for 20 minutes now, it's fine.
Their shirts fall to the floor at the end.
He loves that
He
shot.
thinks that's really sexy.
Yeah, you focus on both couples' feet, and then you just show their shirts hitting the ground, and all kinds of sexy things are happening.
You would have to rip them up to get them to be wide enough to go down over your whole body in your pants, because their pants are still on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. He likes feet a lot.
Guys?
A lot of feet in this movie.
Do you think Neil Breen's had sex?
Ooh, I think he has, and this is deja vu with our Tommy Wiseau episode. Yeah. I think he has, but only a couple of times, but he wasn't as scarred from it as Tommy Wiseau was. So he has a bad relationship with it because he doesn't understand it, not because he hates it, like Wiseau.
Tommy Wiseau definitely presented the women in his movie as antagonists.
Yeah, they were evil.
There's a little bit of compassion. Not enough for Emily in this movie somewhere in there. I do think Neil Breen's a little bit kinder in that way.
He seems too off to me socially and too career focused to ever have had a chance to do that. So I feel like he's probably never been in any sort of romantic relationship.
Again, I don't say this to give him any guff at all. It's just all of it seems so foreign to him when he tries to write it or present it on screen.
Dylan heads to his appointment with good old Dr. David S. Lee, psychotherapist, but he notices a door to a different room, I guess. And this one, which is a different suite, not 1111, says Dr. A. Andra, psychotherapist, suite 2323. She's not a doctor. That's the difference between the two, apparently.
No, you know she's good because she's got double Michael Jordan numbers.
But he says, I know my appointment is with Dr. David S. Lee. I'll just go in this one instead.
And that's how therapists work. They just sit in an empty office waiting for someone to walk in on them.
Anybody walks in, okay, let's get to business.
Yeah, like I do my therapy over Zoom, but sometimes if my therapist isn't available, I just kind of find one, and they don't know me or anything about me or what I've been talking about for years. They just start trying to figure it out.
Lee enters this room, and this is the literal opposite of the previous doctor's room, because instead of a long-ass table with a bunch of chairs between them, there are two like steel folding chairs, like one you might hit Mick Foley with, and they're next to each other, and he's sitting in one, but then sitting in the other one is someone who somehow looks older than Neil Breen. It's a very, 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 very old woman sitting in the other. And look, obviously I make fun of people's looks occasionally. I try to be good with it because I don't like to do it when people don't deserve it. Or, for example, I don't like to call out societal things, which I don't think are right. Like, for example, women really struggle with beauty standards. So I don't like to be like, that woman's ugly. But this woman, I have to say, looks dead.
Yeah,
she is 150 years old.
I thought it was remarkable. And I can't even explain why, because she, like, her voice is strong. She can carry out her lines as well as anybody in this thing, I guess. But she does physically look like they got her into this chair, and that's going to be the last place she ever is.
When at the end of Kill Bill 2, when he gets hit with the 5-finger death punch or whatever, and he has 5 steps left to go, that's her. She's only got 5 left. So if they move her again, that's it.
Do you think that Neil Breen did something digitally to her face to make her look... Well, I'm serious. Do you think like he edited her? Because that's the oldest person I've ever seen.
Yeah. Is there a makeup situation where he was like... Because her character is meant to be some sort of mystical mummy type who's in on the know.
For what it's worth, her character has that vibe. Her expressions on her face, she pulls off what she's going for. She does, she's not good at reading lines or anything, but she has the look of what her character's supposed to be.
And I do think Neil Breen was going for some of the things that, this is the worst way to do it, but instead of being way far apart at the conference table, they're sitting knee to knee. So they're closer and understand each other. Instead of overhead fluorescent lighting, there's like a police interrogation, one bulb hanging down. And then instead of a greedy guy trying to sell him pills, you have like an old woman version of Morpheus.
She's super wise.
And she knows he's magical.
She does know he's magical. She might be magical herself.
I think she's magical. None of this is explained. Neither are the bad guys. So do you think that she works for the rival, whatever the organization is that rivals the people in the Rolls Royce?
But I think that organization, if you will, is spiritual and godlike.
I do too.
And
almost
she does
like touched by an angel.
Sure.
Where she shows up to do good. maybe she kind of pushes David S. Lee off a bridge and is like, I'll be this guy's therapist now. Only that's not true. We see him later.
She's the Roma Downey character, except several hundred years later.
It's like she got caught in an ice storm and was frozen that way and then unthawed and lived another 80 or 85 years and then started therapy school.
But honestly, if you're Neil Breen, this is the thing to do because he looks like a sprite compared to her.
Yeah, I will say next to her, I was like, who's this strapping young boy? Oh, it's Neil Breen, a 55-year-old man.
Well, anyway, Dr. Andra here, she kind of calls out Dylan as a sort of all-knowing angel. She's looking out for him. She says he needs to be careful because they know about it. Whether this they refers to the government agencies he's hacking into or the mystical disappearing people who made their ghost noises around him. Either way, they know about it. Neil Breen then does this cool trick where he looks in a mirror and we see him as a mirror image, but then he walks away and the mirror image stays there.
I
It's
love
like a
it.
soul.
Every time he learns one new little trick, he puts it in the movie and there's not a reason for it. And it's kind of charming because he's just like, I need to shoehorn this in because it's cool that I learned how to do it.
And so now we're back with our favorite couple, Jim and Amy. Amy takes a handful of pills. She chases him down with a glass of wine. She's, I think, about to be in for a pretty wonderful evening here. But then Jim shows up. He apologizes to her. She apologizes to him saying, I let you down. We both got problems. Let's work on it.
There's a bit of a strange tonal shift here in their discussions. Like she's been nothing but annoyed by him the whole time, and now she's apologizing to him for reasons we don't know.
But then again, he's like, okay, let's work on it. She says suddenly, no, let's not work on it.
Nah,
Yeah.
I let you down, but it's too late.
And this is another one of those Breen things where I think he's like, well, this is a more nuanced situation. Like sometimes one of the partners does want to reconcile and the other doesn't, and the timing doesn't work out. But he does not, again, other than the broad idea, he presents it in such an off-putting alien way.
If you feel contrite, why would you then be like, but too late to fix it?
Yeah.
Sorry that I messed it up, but yeah, that's what it is now.
Yeah, you wouldn't do that unless you were holding it over the person and being a monster.
Then the ghost man, whose shiny black shoes and slacks we saw at the hospital bed, he shows back up. He's at some building. He disappears his way through a front door. He doesn't open the door. He disappears, and then he's through it.
That's another one of the tricks that Neil Breen, the director, has that he likes to use in his toolkit.
And he just kind of walks around a bit with an ominous soundtrack playing in the background. That's it. Nothing happens from that.
I'm now disappointed thinking about it that we didn't get an opportunity to see what Neil Breen would make like a supernatural monster guy look like. Like if this guy had a face.
Well, and this is him, right?
It has to be.
I'm pretty sure Neil Breen would also want to play the monster. And he wouldn't have to do that much. He'd be more suited for that role. Maybe he could be a lizard man and he could wear some sort of scales on his head.
And he wouldn't have to say words. He could just do that moaning he does a lot, especially at the beginning of the movie.
There's a lot of moaning.
There is a problem, though, where he couldn't be like a physically intimidating monster. So I don't know how that would work.
Yeah, it's the kind of monster where if you approached it, you'd be like, I know I could kill this easily, but maybe it has some sort of mind power.
Next, Dylan is working, and I do that in air quotes, at his desk, and Emily excitedly comes in and sits on his lap and says, it's late, come to bed. But the thing is, it's not late, because you can see the sun shining through the blinds behind him. But he says, I'd love to come to bed, but I'm busy. I'm sorry. I'd love to come to bed, and this is verbatim. He's just repeating himself, but I need you to go away now. I have too much to do. She gets annoyed, leaves, and then he bangs around on a laptop and pretends to read a book with his finger. Like, the kid who can't read in grade school.
And this is his book again.
Yes, again, this is the book he wrote. He then flops on the couch next to Emily and apologizes and says, I'm sorry I pushed you away. This is instant. This is back-to-back, by the way.
Yeah, you need to put like a little bit of content and then come back to the scene here instead of immediately addressing it.
And it's rapid fire. Bang, 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 bang.
He is so bad at pacing. He either smushes them to get scenes together like this, or he doesn't resolve them
And
at
they
all.
sit for a while. They do kiss, but in the middle of kissing, she says to him, you're having an affair, aren't you? And he says, no, don't be ridiculous. I'm not having an affair. I'm just frustrated with writing, although I haven't told you the truth. She freaks out, thinking, oh, well, it's another woman. And once again, he says no, but
Lady Justice.
guess what? He reveals something you have not yet heard about in this movie.
I have not been writing another novel. I've been hacking into government and corporate international secrets all over the world. And I'm going to expose them all. And no one knows I'm doing it. No one knows.
What? Are you crazy? That's dangerous.
Don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone.
Holy shit, this is huge. We know this. This is like the fifth time we've heard this.
This is another time where the isolated audio is so funny to me because it really reveals how weird it all is. How the lines are read, the just gargantuan pauses between line reads.
Yeah, I didn't cut any of that around. That's legit from the movie. After this, they just kind of press their faces together before ghost noises start again. And we get another trash bag wall scene. We haven't seen that in a bit.
We're about to see it like 500 times in 20 minutes.
Well, this time it doesn't have naked Neil Breen, but it does have that giant golden tome from the beginning of the movie, that giant golden book. And oh, wait, no, here's naked Neil Breen. And never mind, he was there the whole time.
I thought I smelled something.
Dylan and Emily have once again seemingly worked out all their problems. They're in good shape. They're standing in the kitchen, kind of mashed into the corner together, like no two people would do in a giant kitchen. But they're talking about having a barbecue with family and friends. They decide to invite Amy and Jim. Bad idea, but they do it anyway. And she picks up her phone, dials, puts the phone to her ear, and he says, "You should call Amy," while she's calling Amy. Now, the way I see it, there are two ways a filmmaker could handle this scene. The first way is you show Emily calling Amy on the phone and you reveal a good deal about the barbecue, maybe a plot point of some sort.
Sure.
And then they say something relevant, whatever, hang up, fine. The other option is that you don't show any of this phone call because it is not relevant to the plot at all. What do you think he did?
None of that.
He instead has Amy pick up the phone and Emily says, "Amy," pauses a moment and then says, "Hi," then it ends. Like we had to see the introduction of the two characters on the phone.
Well, otherwise, how would we know that
we need proof that she followed through.
We would just see this little gathering and we'd be like, well, how did we get here?
Filmmaking by Breen, man.
I wish he had another step where they're actually looking at each other from the windows of their houses as they talk on the phone, just to drill that point home. This is their neighbor and friend.
Well, it's time for the big Q, because that's how I say it. I'm a cool dude. It's got an apostrophe in it. And they've got some good looking food here. I'll give them that. I mean, on the grill, we've got hot dogs, chicken wings, corn on the cob, everything you want at a barbecue.
How about we go ahead and invite the neurologist to this party?
We probably
out
should.
of nowhere.
Why not?
Not even the actual doctor, but like the other doctor that was involved in the case.
No, just the chief neurologist. But we've also got Dylan, Emily, Jim, Amy, Allie, the daughter, and that's it. That's their big party.
I'd also like to remind everyone that at this point, this blonde neurologist woman, potentially, is at a party at a man's house whose name she does not know.
Just a patient, she said, that's interesting.
Met him for 5 minutes, and then he actually discharged himself without permission, and now she's hanging out with him socially.
You know what that is? All right, I buy that she's there now, because, like, wouldn't you be interested? This guy had major brain damage.
Maybe it's for like a medical journal. You know, she's like, this guy's incredible. He's functioning, he's hacking into corporate and government secret systems, and he got hit in the head and he's fine. We need to figure out what's going on here.
Oh, Spencer, the journal she has is far from medical.
Just says it's a magical day.
Well, how would you cure a person with this shit?
We have seen her walk up to the party. Everyone else has been here. She's the final person showing up, and a guy's here with her, and he looks like Zamfir Master, the pan flute. Emily greets them both and says, "The doctor at the hospital." And she's right. It's the doctor at the hospital. That was correct.
She says it because she's just as surprised to see her there as we are.
Yes. But it's Leah. We know she's here. She's Neil Breen's childhood best friend, or rather Dylan's, whatever. Maybe it's his life story. I don't know.
So Neil Breen, to get over the fact that he and Leah are 20-ish years apart in age, he's like, I've got to have her fiance be older and weirder looking than me.
Well, and she introduces the fiance, and that's Tim, another very bland name. The duo then introduce themselves to everyone else at the party, except when they get back to the back of the party, we see them a little further away. They're talking to Dylan. They loop the exact same audio we heard the first time that they were introduced, with Emily saying, "The doctor at the hospital."
I presume Emily's just saying this over and over again at the party.
I pulled the audio for this. This is not entirely necessary, but the first clip I'm going to play is when they walk in. The next clip is 10 seconds later. Okay, first one.
The doctor at the hospital.
It's nice to see you. I'd like you to meet my fiancé, Tim.
All right, now this is the second one. Again, this is a movie in progression. 10 seconds later, this occurs.
The doctor at the hospital.
I'd like you to meet my fiancé, Tim.
Man, nailed it.
Why? It's so unnecessary.
And it's a real Miami Connection situation here because the actors didn't say those lines again.
No.
So they dubbed it over and none of them are speaking. They're just looking at one another when the second time happens.
Seems like a good time with you mentioning that for me to say there is all sorts of peripheral clattering and talking and kind of nature noises. There's just a handful of people here, and you're outside. There wouldn't be a lot of confined noise, but it sounds like a dinner hall or something.
I have to also ask, did you guys think Neil Breen's pool looks a little gross?
It's a little dirty.
It's not that ready for use, I wouldn't say.
And you know he's been in it.
Those things have to be dirty, though. Like, I can't imagine keeping up a pool. That's a lot of work.
No, and he's too busy. He's got his book or his hacking to do, and Emily's got the bank and her pills.
You'd think he could get out there and swim around and tongue out those bugs once a week and clean the pool.
Tim, the fiance, says he'll go get everybody a drink so that they can celebrate. And then a glass breaks off screen, I guess. So Emily excuses herself to go fix it. It's probably Jim dropping shit.
Yeah, that drunk fuck up.
Except she doesn't go fix it. Instead, as the scene transitions, we see her just at the grill moving stuff around. Leah takes this opportunity. She's standing here alongside Just Dylan to pull out her cell phone out of her pocket. And then a familiar notebook falls out. And it happens to land on a page that says, "It's a magical day."
And I mentioned this at the very beginning of our last episode when we started talking about the movie, but this is a full-size journal, and she pulls it out of where?
So we assume these 25 years since they've met,
Yeah.
since they were last together, or 50 in little boy Neil Breen's case, she just has carried this giant notebook around with her everywhere she goes.
Yeah, much like he's carried a tiny little stone in his pocket as a token of the memory, where she's had to carry a whole fucking book.
Yeah, he got a lot better of a deal.
Then again, it does logically make sense. She seems more sturdy and capable of carrying around a notebook.
She is thicker than he is. Dylan leans down to pick it up and sees the page, the one that says "It's a magical day." He immediately recognizes it and asks, "Leah, is this yours?" And she says, "Yeah, it's just something I've been carrying around for good luck for the past 75 Breen years."
And at this point, he should say, "I was outside in the wind for too long, and that's why."
I fell in a vat of acid. That's what happened.
Because there's no way, once she realizes this is Dylan, that she's not like, "What the fuck?"
Are you all right?
No, she would probably cry. It would be a tragedy.
Wait,
I'm sorry this happened to you.
wait, are you Dylan Sr.?
But Dylan doesn't say something like, "Oh, wow, are you Leah?" What he says is, "Oh my God, is that you? It's you, isn't it?"
And he says it playfully like that, like it's not a huge surprise, which it should be.
Like maybe he sort of knew all along, that sort of thing. Like he kind of suspected. Now he's like, "That is you, isn't it, Leah?"
But apparently this works. This thing does the trick because she realizes he's the Dylan from her childhood. And she goes, "I sure wished I had looked at the name on your chart."
I couldn't see your face because it was all bandaged up. And now when I see your face, you look just like that little boy.
I kind of wish that they had gone even further with her being oblivious, and they show her walking up to the front of the house and there's a big nameplate that says Dylan. And she just keeps not understanding. She's still going, but she doesn't know it's him.
So another question I have, just logistically here, we're saying that this is either the town that they both grew up in originally, or they've just moved to the same place accidentally.
Yeah, because that too, for them to be living in the same place between 25 and 50 years
so
later.
Did she come back to the town that her dad had to move away from? And the love of her life that she keeps the notebook the whole time, never bothered reaching out to him or trying to find him? I was just curious.
Typically, you're not moving back to your hometown when you left that young and your parents left. Usually you would come back because your family's there.
Had they found each other on socialfriendpages.com,
Sure, that makes
this would have been
sense.
a different story, but that doesn't exist here.
I didn't even realize we had that connection between our first and third movies this year.
He immediately clutches her hand, and not in a cutesy, like, "Hey, we were once friends, right? This is cool" way. but more of a I now own your body kind of way.
He is ravenous. His eyes are horny right away.
That poor fiance who's at this party with her in this moment.
Well, then Dylan talks loudly and directly into her ear, saying, I can't believe it's really you. I think about you every day of my life. And she says, I do too. I think about you every day. They quickly pull apart once they realize they're getting a little too touchy at this family barbecue. And Tim, the fiance, he's shown back up here. He has like a Michelin Man shaped glass, one of those weird plastic party glasses that won't break if you drop it.
Unlike Neil Breen, who would easily break if you dropped it.
And of course, Emily shows back up and Dylan leans over and yells directly into her ear, I've known her since she was 8 years old. It's a real creepy ass thing to say out loud.
And if you happen to not be paying attention or you were getting snacks at the beginning of the movie, it would be even creepier because you would not know he was the boy, really.
Yeah, why have you known her since she was 8 years old would be the question.
I'll tell you what, if this was portrayed accurately, there'd be like a middle-aged man running through that field at the beginning with her.
Hey, the party's going great though, guys. In fact, several people have hamburger buns with nothing on them, just the buns. No burger, no condiments, no cheese. Yet others on their plates have like 2 or 3 full cobs of corn.
That's all they want.
Zamfir's over there. He's holding his burger bun like he's about to take a bite out of it, as if it's actually a burger and not just an empty bun. Emily leans over to take something off of Dylan's plate. You know, cutesy couples do this. Can I have a bite of yours?
Like maybe a piece or
Yeah, a
like
little
an hors
piece.
d'oeuvre.
You know what? She takes a whole cob of corn, like the whole fucking thing.
I wish she would have bit right into it then.
It's just all normal stuff people accused do.
And the camera keeps shifting between each character. You hear chatter, but they're all in one place and no one's talking. And it shifts between their faces smiling, and it has a very cult-like feel to it.
Leah sees Emily kind of glaring at her here while they're all sitting down and chatting. And Leah gives a nasty look at her, like a disgusted, like, ew kind of thing. It's very weird. And then she goes right back to her conversation. But then Emily is seen, well, mostly she's seen because actually where the camera is, it's looking at the grill. So you only see the bottom 2/3 of everyone who's in this scene. She's grilling. And then we see Jim in the background, or we hear Jim, and we see his lower half making some weird sounds, saying like, very nice, climbing in. Emily starts yelling at him, calling him a creep, get your hands off me. And she pushes him away.
So I guess Jim is fondling Emily. The camera view, which I guess is some sort of artistic choice made by Neil Breen, makes it really weird and impossible to know what's going on.
But Jim, when he's pushed away, he knocks over a bunch of corn.
That's kind of Jim's thing.
Knocking over corn.
Yeah, knocking over whatever he can.
And being like, whoa, 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 before he does
shut
it.
the fuck up.
And why is there so much corn at this thing?
Neil Breen, well, he's a bird of some sort, so he loves the corn.
I've got just about all the corn I need.
Then every single person at the party kind of stands side by side facing the same one, like it's a Last Supper painting, but with these cast of characters.
I wish that was a painting. I would
It'd be amazing.
I would buy 100 copies of that.
So then Leah and Tim toast to everyone. It's a great end to the party. Except right here in front of absolutely everyone, Dylan leans in very close to Leah and yells, very nice, right in her ear. And she giggles and they hold hands.
What does that
right
mean?
in front of everyone.
Is he Borat?
But that's that.
He's not that far from Borat, actually.
You realize, hang on, I'll be back. I gotta get a thing.
Okay.
Say where you are. This
Sure.
isn't relevant to anything.
I'm sure it's not. Yeah.
Looking in my notes to see what this could be.
I'm just out here doing nothing at all.
Sure.
I'll probably leave or be gone for a bit.
I'm glad you're leatherheading us.
That's normal.
Okay, I'm officially leaving now.
Okay.
My brother and I were chosen people by the gods. Hello there, I am Franley.
Oh, okay.
I am the good twin.
I'm not sure if I should believe that or not.
I will take the place of Van Lee for now.
Oh, okay. Where did he go?
It just looks like your Van Lee, except with a white mop sort of thing as a beard.
But you look
Is that
exactly the same.
Is that not true?
This is my beard.
Oh,
But it's kind of falling off your face. It's like the beard isn't real.
Don't be silly.
It's kind of a strange thing. It's almost also, he's not here. It's almost as if you can't be in the same room at the same time because you're the same person, but you couldn't be.
Don't be silly.
It's like a movie I've seen. I can't think of the name of it.
Is it called Vran, the tortured crossing,
It was like Twisted Pair or something.
called it multiplicity.
In a way.
Once again, we get a time change when no actual literal time change has changed, as Dylan is now reading a piece of paper at his desk when he hears some splashing outside at his pool. It turns out Amy's young daughter, Allie, has wandered her way back into the house, and she kind of stands in the pool in her bikini before taking her top off and looking back at Dylan. I'm Fran Lee.
Right.
I'm his brother.
And Neil Breen's kind of leering at her at the window, but I don't think we're supposed to actually read into that.
No, he's peeking. He is looking to see who is at his pool.
Okay, that's how you're reading the scene?
Correct.
Fran?
That's Vran.
Vran? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Hi, silly me.
That is my name.
Right. God-given. God-given? I don't know.
Well, God gave me powers.
Oh, okay.
My brother, Fan Lee,
He didn't get him.
which is not me, did
I
not
know
get powers.
he didn't get him. He's, yeah.
He's the joke is he's the evil twin. I'm the good twin.
You're the good one.
Did you notice you're having to hold your beard physically up at this point?
No, this is how I hold my face.
Oh, is that just like a nervous tick
It
that you
is.
have?
It is yes.
Oh, okay. That makes a lot of sense to me. I do think that while you were given magical powers, Van might be better at podcasting.
Do not be silly.
His beard stays up.
Allie looks with her top off. She's 13, by the way. Looks back through the window at Dylan and says, Dylan, seductively. And he puts his hand on his head to show he's not cool with this.
Well, and this is the kind of guy that
I have to leave now.
Teen girls lust. Oh, Vran's gotten up.
My powers are needed elsewhere.
Well, we don't usually interrupt the podcast like that.
No, maybe he has to use the restroom or die. I'm not really certain what's happening to him.
I was a little concerned about how his face didn't seem to be holding itself together.
I was too. I was beginning to think that perhaps he had kidnapped Van and perhaps stuffed him in a meat locker or something like that. But no, Van is back.
It seems to be no worse for the wear.
Yeah, sorry, I had to take a poop. Okay, so anyway, once again, we get a time change, and there's no actual time change in the movie.
We actually have covered this part of the movie.
Yeah.
That's what?
Well, we had a guest host for a little bit there.
No, he's the evil one.
Well-
Did he tell you I'm the evil one? I'm not evil.
Well, let me describe him to you. He's a guy who looked a lot like you, only he had a fake white beard on that he had to keep pushing up a lot.
I mean, I don't know that guy.
You've never met him
No, I've never
before?
met that guy, no.
Okay, well.
But I do have a brother out there.
He did handle this strange Alicia Silverstone, Carrie Elway's Crush style plot that's going on in this movie.
Oh, good. So I can skip ahead then.
You don't have to talk about how I'm afraid to say Neil Breen even thinks children should lust after him.
Yeah, it's kind of gross how this cute little girl is thinking he's hot stuff.
And it's almost as if Neil Breen is like really confused about how old she's supposed to be because he whiffs on both accounts. He's like, I don't know, what do girls that age do? Do book reports about an elephant or do they fuck old men?
He has the extremes here and completely makes Allie into some sort of just the weirdest character I've ever seen. And also, it's very creepy, this scene is.
Well, it doesn't help that she is not an actor.
Kind of does make her fit in, though.
But just then, or maybe a year later, we're not sure, Allie does go in the house. She turns on the faucet to the shower, adds some bubble bath to it, and Dylan somehow hears the water running over his violent keyboard clacking. And he says, hey, Emily, you're home early. But it is not Emily. It is a literal teenager. Dylan goes into the bathroom just as Allie's towel falls to the ground, and he goes boing and shoots his eyeballs out of his head at her. But she looks back, gives him bedroom eyes despite being a child. And our savior and hero, he's Neil Breen. He's a good guy. He doesn't take advantage of this young girl. Instead, he kind of clambers over to her as quickly as he can, which is not quickly, and puts the towel back up.
I would think the better approach in that situation would be to go the other way from her and to leave the room, not to cover her up. I get that he's trying to show like, no, I can't allow this, but I just feel like don't approach her since she doesn't have any clothes on.
And I mean, I will say this now, this plot doesn't connect to anything else that goes on in the movie before or after. It doesn't need to be here at all.
It's pretty dumb.
And there's no good reason for it because as I was kind of alluding to before, it's either Neil Breen wants us to know that even underage teen girls think he's very hot, or that Neil Breen thinks it's a real statement to be like, you know what? I'm such a good guy, I will not even take advantage of a teen girl, which, duh, no one would. That's not like, doesn't belong in prison. Like, there's no good thing he's doing here.
There's no good way to interpret this. Either way, it's a bad storyline.
It's like unnecessary, look how hot I am, or unnecessary white knighting that's like when Nickelback sings about how you shouldn't hit people.
I do think it is the latter. This is some sort of weird attempt for him to make you like the character more,
Yeah.
I think. Like, he's not a guy who would ever do that.
He does politely ask her to stop doing this. She never says no. She just kind of stupidly nods at him, and then the scene stops. And again, scenes don't end in Fateful Findings, they stop.
They crash.
All right, with the weird Lolita plot out of the way, let's go ahead and take a break so I can adjust my beard. Later on, Emily has arrived home, and Dylan yells at her and says, somehow this is your fault that Allie came over and tried to hit on me. It's because apparently Emily said, yeah, come over and use our pool whenever. Therefore, she's doing villainous things. Emily calls Amy to complain. Amy says it won't happen again, but no one actually gets to the root of the problem. No one talks to Allie.
No, and Neil Breen at one point says, don't worry, now she has to call first. What?
So the problem solved.
She doesn't come over there again is what you do with this.
And the true way to solve this is to get Allie to Dr. David S. Lee or Dr. A. Andra, not doctor, she's not a doctor, A. Andra, because she needs psychological help because she's a 13-year-old who's attracted to Neil Breen.
Yeah, maybe both, because David S. Lee can give her some medication, and then Dr. A. Andra can give her the future.
Well, anyway, Allie just throws herself on her bed, cries a bunch. I mean, that's it for the young, horny girl subplot, basically. One tiny thing later. Jim gets home, and he is a total fucking dick to Amy. This results in each of them throwing wine onto one another's supple, round breasts. He runs back to shine the mirror of his hot rod again, but Amy's had enough. She goes into the bedroom, lifts up her mattress. What does she pull out but a loaded handgun?
Uh-oh.
She cocks it back, opens the garage door where Jim is mirror shining, and she points the gun past her ample chest and directly at the red sports car and says, I'm going to get you good, Jim. I'm going to shoot this damn car full of holes because you love it more than me.
Which would have been really funny if she had done it. Both the idea of shooting a car that's in your garage, I don't know why, and however Neil Breen would have made that look.
Oh, man, that's a good point. The quote CGI he would do.
Yeah, and the bullet sounds.
I would have liked it to have been like a machine gun sound when it was clearly just like a regular handgun.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Well, she pulls the trigger. She's again pointing at the car. She shoots at the car, but Jim launches his ample chest directly in front of the bullet and takes it. Boom, it hits him.
Yeah, he's like the car's bodyguard.
Mm-hmm. He's a real Kevin Costner of this situation.
And the car's Whitney Houston.
Exactly.
The idea of him diving in front of the car.
And the car beeps, I will always love you.
I mean, Jim went out protecting the thing he loved most.
The car,
I can respect that.
One mirror.
The side story is she's fucking Wyatt Earp or something. High Nooner out there, one shot and dead.
Yeah, he crumples to the ground. The bullet casing falls to the ground. Not good news. Meanwhile, Dylan has arrived at their house for some reason, presumably to yell about Allie. And he hears the gunshot ring out and begins to kind of panic, or at least Neil Breen panic, which is to casually go, Amy, Jim.
Yeah, that's about the volume. You got it right.
Back in the garage, Allie has arrived to look out and see what's happening, and she angrily says to her mother, you killed him. And the two kind of slowly turn in unison and look at Jim's body. It's like when two mimes do that thing where they're pretending to be mirrors. That's what they do, looking at Jim's bloody corpse. Allie then shifts gears and starts to scream, Dad, and tries to rush to him, to go to him. But Amy grabs her and just by the arms and legs and tries to hold her back. She says, stop, don't look, even though they've already looked.
Don't be a Denny and go try to bring a corpse back to life.
And Amy says, you didn't see anything. You know how he was. She convinces her daughter to call 911 and decides the best course of action right now is to put the gun by Jim and pretend that he shot himself.
Mm-hmm.
When Dylan finally makes it in the garage, Amy yells to him, he killed himself.
Right away.
He's apparently very convincingly, so Dylan tells her to call 911.
No one wants to do it themselves.
It's always get somebody else to do it. He rushes over to Jim and starts shaking him a lot, or the body of Jim, I guess. Jim and now Dylan are absolutely covered in blood.
Yeah, and Neil Breen's wiping it on his fucking lips and stuff, just like he did with his own blood earlier.
He literally does wipe it onto his own face. It's very, very strange. He's befuddled that his friend could commit suicide.
Jim! Jim! How could you have done this? Jim! I can't believe you committed suicide. I cannot believe you committed suicide. How could you have done this? How could you have committed suicide? I can't help you out of this one, Jim. With all we've been through, I can't pull you out of this one. Goodbye, my friend. Goodbye.
There's a little more backstory to Dylan's character, which is that he's been a hero to Jim many times and saved him, I guess, a lot of times in the past.
You can't save him this time.
No, he can't pull him out of that.
That whole time he's talking, he's manipulating Jim's body in his arms and wiping the blood
He's
around.
getting bloodier as he speaks, yes.
And he rocks back and forth. It's uncomfortable to look at.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
I did, however, get some Miami Connection vibes going when they kept yelling, Jim!
Yeah.
I really wish this would have happened. Same movie, guys.
Neil Breen cannot get his voice that loud to yell Jim.
That's true. There's a really brief scene here where Amy's on the phone with Emily, and Amy says, I drove him to suicide. And Emily responds with, what? Suicide? That's it. That is all that happens.
I guess she didn't hear anything next door.
That would be a interesting way to break the news that my husband killed himself to begin the conversation with your friend. I drove him to suicide.
And by the way, your husband is here bathing in his blood.
Well, that's that.
Yeah.
Yep. We will not talk about it any longer.
He's busy reading his own book again, and this time he takes a moment to loudly talk about how he doesn't believe Jim would commit suicide. Then he talks about being really tired and slowly plants his arms and head down on his desk and passes out like a toddler who refused to take a nap.
Powering off.
This gives us the opportunity for some more ghost noises and then some weird nude stuff in the trash bag room. Back in what I will call the real world, if real as a Breen world could be, Jim's suicide has hit Emily pretty hard.
For some reason.
She's back on the pills now. It's terrible. And then Dylan, he gets another phone call from his publisher. And he says, I'm not going to sign with you anymore. Though presumably, like we mentioned earlier, he already had an agreement because he published the first book.
And they're calling him expecting something. Like the first phone call, you'd be like, you don't have any right to call me. I'm not signed with you.
Hey, we're not movie and storyline experts.
True.
I don't know. Maybe it's right, but he does throw a piece of paper in annoyance. And then he continues berating Penguin or whatever this company is that's calling him.
Yeah, it probably is Penguin.
Finally, with all of his emotions coming to the forefront, he has the ultimate reaction.
And I don't owe you anything. In fact, I'm not going to give you the next book. That's it. Don't call here anymore. No more damn books. No more books.
Yeah, he makes it literal by actually throwing the books, his own book.
And that scene is one of the trailer moments, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He clearly decided, going back over the movie, is like, that's got to go in the trailer.
That's going to be a big moment. The audience is going to be pumping their fists in the air. They're all going to be hard.
Or they're going to be questioning, like, why? Why no more books? What's happened?
I got to see this thing.
We're in the trash bag room again, and we've got another naked body here to talk about. This one's a woman. She's all crumpled up with her face down. And Dylan is standing there. He's kind of consoling her while flute music plays, but that's it. Well, Emily throws some books at Dylan this time, and she says she can't take it anymore. So you know what Dylan does? He goes back to that very, very old woman's suite at the psychotherapist building and talks about his first love.
Like an old caterpillar.
Andra basically tells him, hey, it's cool to go ahead and cheat on Emily. It's no big deal. And then we contrast that with Dylan sitting with Dr. David S. Lee, offering him more drugs and accusing Dylan of cheating on him. He's saying, like, are you seeing another therapist?
which is a common thing in therapy when you grill your patients about what they're doing in their personal lives with that.
But Dylan denies this vehemently. He's like, no, there is no other psychotherapist.
There is
Definitely
no
not in the
other
same building.
David Lee in my life.
And the one I have definitely isn't saying things like, you're the chosen mystical force of the universe. Do anything, including cheating on your significant other if you need to.
But then Dr. Lee drops a bomb on his patient. He asks him, how's your research coming along? Dylan is confounded by this. And then we see a flashback to the phone conversation Emily was having the one time when she was super fucked up. Turns out it was to Dr. Lee.
Uh-oh.
She asked, can you give me more pills for him? And this is what else she says.
He isn't writing another novel. He's writing about government secrets.
Yeah, another trailer moment that we all loved.
Probably the one I was most looking forward to seeing when we got this movie.
Government secrets.
It's a great line read.
I don't know how Emily's able to be so memorable with these things, but it just comes out of her that way.
Because you couldn't read these lines like that on purpose.
No.
No, I actually think maybe she was on some pills when they filmed this.
No, it's how you get through a full couple of weeks filming a movie with Breen. Dylan decides to go out to that river park where Kirk Cameron and his dad learned about the love dare.
It totally looks like that.
But who should he run into here at the Bluff Park than his long-lost friend / apparent love interest, Leah?
Oh, twice in a couple days. And again, he acts so casual, like,
After not having seen her for 2 decades.
or 4.
The two share an intimate moment where they very briefly say hi to one another, and they're like, oh, that's it. Let's keep going in our separate directions. But both stop.
That's not happening.
Like, no. It's a fake out. Neil Breen knows how to edge an audience, basically. We see both characters stop, turn around, rush over to one another, and then embrace. As they walk along the riverbank, Leah reveals she broke up with Tim, or Zamfir Tim. But then when Dylan says, I'm sorry to hear that, she shushes him and puts her finger on his mouth. I don't like that. If anyone did that to me, I would bite their finger.
I'm surprised he didn't bite it clean off.
Well, I feel like with him, if you put a finger in his mouth, you're leaving that dent in his face wherever your finger just was. He's like Play-Doh.
Knock a few teeth out doing that.
And they basically just stand here maybe 2 inches away from each other's face. They're very close to one another. He says he loves her and always has. And again, this is all while having their heads very close to one another. She reciprocates the feeling, and the two decide they should revisit the place where they originally discovered their love for one another, the weird forest in the desert.
Yeah, the magical mushroom / treasure stone forest.
Well, guess what? That magic mushroom's still there.
Wow.
It's got a bunch of glitter on it this time.
Yeah, same size and everything.
But just like before, it magically disappears, reveals the same bag with all the bad jewelry in it. They say things like, it's a magical day, a magical time, a place where dream comes true.
It's not for everyone in this movie, though, right now, is it?
Well, Neil Breen's wearing a mustard old man shirt. Does that help the situation for you?
It does.
This one's also 3 sizes too big, and the top 6 or 7 buttons, not buttoned.
Mm-mm.
You see his nipples when he's standing there.
Which is, again, verboten in the Neil Breen world.
While all of this stuff is going on between Leah and Dylan, we see Emily at home. And you hinted, Brian, not all is well with Emily. She's taking a fistful of pills and drinking water out of a wine glass, shaking a whole bunch. Suddenly her hand falls to the side, and the glass with the water in it spills all over the bed.
She's out now, right?
Is she dead? No, because a second later she's sitting up,
Oh.
holding the wine glass still.
Why aren't these scenes just reversed? Why? I mean, he clearly just was either too lazy to do it or did something wrong and was like, yeah, I don't know. It's inexplicable.
Well, she does say, I'm sorry, Dylan, and then dies.
Which, again, kind of harkens to The Room a little bit in the God forgive me. Slurred in a similar manner.
So what do you think Dylan and Leah are doing in the forest now?
Well, I think they might be engaged in Neil Breen's signature method of lovemaking, which involves a lot of shirt tearing.
Yeah, just basically kiss a little, rip each other's shirts for some reason, but not all the way down, and then kiss a little more, then show some legs, and the shirt's falling.
Yeah, and there's a childlike quality to the whole thing, like all the hugging and giggling that makes it fucking creepy. Like, I know they're adults, but again, since he doesn't seem to know what it's like to have sex, it comes across as a kid's idea of it, and it makes it uncanny and gross.
With the lack of the real passion in the scene, like where they would actually be getting that carnal satisfaction, that's not there. We know that element is missing.
Somehow, yeah.
All I'm seeing is just some needlessly ruined shirts in these scenes, because if you're going to tear someone's clothes up, it better be because the release is going to be so good because you want it so bad.
That it ramps the moment up.
Sure.
The other thing is it really better be that way for them because they're outside and have to drive back home in public.
Yeah, so they have to put their clothes back on.
At least with Emily, they were at home.
Dylan is now back at home, and he rushes into the bedroom to find a now dead Emily. So he clutches her, just like he did Jim.
He loves to cradle a corpse.
Dylan has now had a very rough couple of days with his neighbor and best friend killing himself, and now his wife killing herself.
And he was fucking during it.
And this time, he's pushing her dead head around. He's got his hand on the back of her dead head, and he's saying, "It was you. I knew it was you." What that means, I don't know.
I never understood that.
Yeah, I have no idea. Unless he's bringing up the fact that she called David S. Lee and was the turncoat that told people what he was doing.
Interesting thing to level at her dead body at that point.
Which would make me think, yeah, surely that can't be it. You wouldn't like chastise your
dead wife.
Yeah.
Or
Which you were
girlfriend.
just cheating on.
But he might.
Well, the flute music dials up to 11, and the now muted Dylan kind of half screams no a few times before he sits down at his desk, pulls out his Motorola Sidekick, and then yells into it, "Emily is dead."
Is he doing a voice memo?
So he'll remember.
Yeah, like a note for himself. Or he's telling Leah, like, hey, you know how you said Tim, like you broke up with Tim? Well, I'm single now, too.
Ooh, in the clear.
I mean, this is super convenient that his girlfriend just died of an overdose. Hey, I'm free.
Hands are clean, sort of. I mean, he already did have sex with her before knowing that. The other thing is maybe he's recording this as a voice memo, like I said, and then he's just going to mass send that out to everybody they know.
That's how you let pass the news on.
Well, he lets his head fall to his desk with his arm outstretched, and in his hand, what do we see? But that black square rock he always has. It fades away into nothing while a montage of what we just saw in the woods happens again, this time interlocked with trash bag room footage of naked Breen clutching that naked woman, who it's obviously Leah.
Because they're both magical naked trash bag room fairy types or whatever they are mystically.
Oh, I think that covers it. There's some more weird stuff where Dylan talks about working on his government secrets on the phone, but also, in this case, he's in a tiny room with the wrinkly old A. Anders telling him his soul is clean and he's perfect.
Uh-huh. He loves this. I bet you he had more lines initially, but the movie got too long with people telling him how great he is.
He had to cut 30% of them out. Probably 80, and this is still much in. But this takes us to our next scene, and I do think it's important to set the stage for this one. Dylan is sitting at the same desk he always sits at. We've seen him here 1,000 fucking times. This time he's wearing a softball shirt with the sleeves cut off, showing off his sinewy arms.
Let him breathe.
But sitting in the forefront of the scene is Leah, who we can see is just kind of smiling and looking at him. Mm-hmm. That's all she's doing here. But what is he doing that warrants her looking at him? Why, he's eating a plate of fresh spinach leaves with a fork. There is nothing else on this plate.
Not even dressing.
No, just spinach leaves. And he gets a fork full of it, puts it in his mouth, and eats it. Neil Breen eats
smiling.
it and smacking the whole time.
Leah gives him a warm, inviting smile back, like, yeah.
She kind of nods and smiles back in a way that says to me, I have poisoned you, and I'm glad you're eating that.
To me, it's a look that says, I have witnessed several people eat only spinach, and that is a normal thing to look at.
And on top of all that, there's really no acknowledgement about grief over Emily's death.
At this point, Leah has taken Emily's place in the house and is now just there.
I'm so glad I now have you to watch me eat my spinach leaves off a dry plate.
And complain about being busy.
Yeah, and it's so loud, too.
He then throws the plate on top of a pile of manila folders. It is not a secure place.
The camera zooms in on it. Like
need
that
you
was
to
like
know.
the focal point.
This is supposed to be his version of comedy, and it is so out of touch with like humor. We zoom in on him placing the plate almost intentionally on the edge of this file holder, this upright file holder, and then we zoom back to them smiling first. And right then, we're primed for, wait, was that supposed to be funny?
Yeah, because it slides a little. It doesn't settle. And she grins like, ha ha ha. Almost like plates that fall off a place that isn't secure is hilarious.
Yeah.
This is not human.
No one has thought this is funny. And what, is it supposed to be the sense of danger? I've seen this guy fucking spill way worse shit over his laptops 5 times already. These are dry spinach leaves. Who cares?
Well, they're both obviously in the throes of love. They love each other. They're having a great time. They're eating a delicious, nutritious meal of spinach, or he is. She's not eating. But he takes a moment to throw yet another wrench in the plot of this movie. This is a huge twist, guys.
All this time, I haven't been working on my next book. I've hacked into the most secret government and corporate secrets. The most secret.
Holy shit, the most secret government and corporate secrets?
Whoa, no, these must be really ass secret.
Wait, did we know this?
You know, there's like an echo of something similar in my brain, but I don't remember.
I do like him telling Leah all this time, which they just came back in each other's lives like a week ago or something. All this time in the last 4 days that you've known me, Leah.
Leah is frightened for Dylan because she knows secret government and corporate secrets are very dangerous things to have.
Someone's going to know about it.
He says it's okay. No one knows about this but you and the other dozen people I've said it to in this movie.
Well, they probably do know.
Here are my notes. Neil Breen says no one knows. Then he says others do know and have found out.
That's just it. Then he turns around and says, but you're right, they know. He then throws a bunch of books and yells some nonsense, and we see that it is true. Some very bad people do know some things. They're taking actions to put a stop to it. We see a kid in a black hoodie with black gloves on hide behind a stucco wall, which also has a bush next to it.
And this is a kid. He's maybe the age of that neighbor girl.
He's very young. He takes the lid off a bottle of peroxide and puts it on like a rag, and it's supposed to be chloroform, except you see like the pharmaceutical like recommendations on the back of it, as if you could go to Walgreens and just buy chloroform.
No, it is very clearly peroxide.
It's that bottle. It's that brown bottle. He's not after Dylan, though, this kid. We see it's actually Leah coming around the corner that he's going to grab. He snatches her up, or I guess has a tussle for a few moments, and they kind of like flail at one another.
And her part, she walks dead ass into him. There's only one way to go on this sidewalk, and at the end of it, there's a man in a hoodie and like he's clearly a robber or something.
Well, he puts the rag over her mouth and drags her backwards, kicking and screaming. And that's why I don't really think it was chloroform, because she doesn't get unconscious at all. She screams the whole time, so it really was peroxide. But he winds up dropping a card, like a business card or whatever, with instructions on it stating, take her to trailer number 23 at 410 South Ambrose Avenue with the initials BL signed below.
So this is the shittiest magical crime syndicate I've ever seen in my life, that this kid can't fucking remember where he's going.
He has to have a card on him.
And a handwritten card at that. Oh, it's great. It's so lazy. I can just see Neil Breen at his little word processor, like, how do I get it to where my character knows where Leah is? What if he just had the exact address? He doesn't even have to piece anything together. This is the best hacker in the world, and the way he finds out where Leah is a business card with the address falls out of a guy's pants.
All right, but Dylan, he's coming around the corner just now. I'm assuming this is 6 hours later. Who knows?
Well, he's always there when tragedy occurs.
But you know what he's doing? He's leatherheading himself, because he's on a voicemail describing that he's calling Leah, and he's saying, I'm walking around the corner up to our front door right now, yet you are not directly in front of me. Where are you? But he sees her purse and the instructional card on the ground, immediately tipping off that something is a bit amiss here. He continues narrating that he found the purse, and he says to her voicemail, Leah, where are you?
He's going to have a tough time getting her back. This is probably going to be a real struggle for him.
He then spends maybe like a full minute asking the phone where she is before he actually reads the note he found. And then he declares shakily, I'll find you, Leah. Don't worry, I'll find you. And then he kind of old man leaps into action.
I wish he would have full leatherhead and threatened to turn the bad guys into gumbo.
Or, hear me out, he's still on the phone and he goes, I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want. I don't have any money, but what I can tell you is I have a particular set of skills. And then he does the whole thing.
Oh,
huh?
Neil Breen and Taken. I'd watch 100 of those.
He would get so hurt in that.
Oh, immediately. He'd make it through about 10 minutes of the first one.
Come to find out, the trailer where Leah is being held is at the same storage unit facility that we saw at the beginning of the movie. And Dylan is here. He's already made his way here, and he promptly struts over to the trailer she's in, which is being, quote, guarded by that same kid, except he's passed out with a bunch of beer bottles around him. Not a very good guard.
No.
No.
Everything he did was the worst. And this is their only guy, too. They don't have anyone else there.
And they're magical or something, I think. Or maybe not. Maybe they just know he is.
He's magical. We know that.
But they're anti-magic.
After yelling at the kid for a bit, Dylan smashes a beer bottle over his head and then he proceeds to ghost his way through the door. He does the thing the mysterious pants and shoes do. He fades away and then reappears inside the trailer.
I'm glad you mentioned the mysterious pants and shoes. That confirms that I think the bad guys also have a power.
That's true, yeah.
Forces of good and evil both have powers, just like the god and the devil.
Well, this is a power we didn't necessarily know Neil Breen had.
No, we sure didn't.
Nor one that he really needs. He could have gotten in there.
Yeah, it looks like you just kind of jiggle on the doorknob a little bit. It'll open.
I don't think he needed to smash a beer bottle over that teen's head either.
It's just a kid trying to get beer money.
Why do we think that Neil Breen's superpowers manifested here in this particular moment? Has he leveled up? Or did the Rock get like different forms, give him more abilities? Or why can he do this now and he wasn't before?
Did he always know he could do it?
Maybe he has. Maybe he's been doing it. This is just our first instance of seeing it.
Yeah, and he really is the ultimate hacker because this is physically hacking into a place with your own body.
Hacking the molecules.
Well, that'd be really funny if like someone got caught robbing a jewelry store and they're like, I hacked my way in with my body into the store's mainframe, which is the store itself.
Inside the trailer, he frees Leah from her shackles, but does force her to keep her blindfold on, saying you can't see what's about to happen. But that's not all. I have to put the gag back on because you can't mouth what happens.
I'm going to put you exactly how you were in your traumatized state, Leah.
What on earth has happened, or has he said already that is like she already knows what's up?
It's the ghost stuff.
I
can't
guess.
see it.
She can't see him disappear.
But she already knows about the secret government and corporate secrets.
And the mushroom, and the fancy forest mushroom.
She's been around the whole time.
I think she knows about it all.
She saw the disappearing mushroom.
I think this is a plot error.
Oh, what a failure on his behalf. Well, he does ghost them both through the front door and they leave. That's it. Problem solved.
How does that work for her?
Ghost.
I just don't. He has that ability. Does he make her do it
Yeah,
too?
she should clank into the door when he tries.
Leah, I can't get you out of there.
I have the ability to change physical matter when you touch me. That's why my body seems translucent.
He brought a second, like, aquarium gravel piece and gave it to her, and that's how she was able to get through.
Oh, okay. Magic stone shit.
Oh, by the way, do you guys remember that whole subplot where Amy's young daughter, Allie, was utterly infatuated with Neil Breen's old-ass body?
Uh-huh.
Unfortunately, not able to forget.
Do you guys remember how Jim didn't commit suicide and actually Amy shot him? Well, guess what? That comes up.
Oh.
So, yeah, they wrap this up, huh?
Sure.
Huh?
What about Emily?
Not so much that one.
Oh, yeah. See ya. R.I.P.
Dylan yells at Allie, the daughter, again here. I don't know where they are. This just started happening. We just see this happening.
Yeah, I don't know where we are either.
And says, hey, you can't come to my house anymore. But she tells him, Jim didn't kill himself. Actually, Amy shot him. And Dylan responds with a hearty, what?
This is a teenage girl who just witnessed one of her parents kill the other. This is Neil Breen's reaction.
He pushes her out and tells her, go tell the police.
And he does push her. It's like
Physically.
a pull. It's as hard as he can push her.
Like, I know what's happened, but you would show some empathy, I would think.
There's some more ghost noises, and the man who is black pants and shoes appears in Dylan's house, and he kind of rifles through stuff on his desk, but he is invisible while doing it.
Could be Johnny Cash, the man in black.
Before he eventually walks around a bit more, and the weird wispy ghost air stuff makes a sound effect and flies over the bed where Dylan and Leah are now asleep and nude, by the way. Had to be nude. Leah is sleeping the way the other couple did. Face down, boobs out, same thing. Finally, an alarm clock ticks from 11:59 a.m. to noon, and Dylan abruptly sits up out of bed. They're both asleep. So I think this is supposed to be p.m. to a.m.
Because the implication is he's sneaking out in the middle of the night.
Right, but again, it says a.m. to noon.
I also really like the idea because Neil Breen's actually an old fucking grandma that he's like, midnight's so late, no one could wake up if I got out of bed at that time.
Well, he sneaks out of bed too, and it takes
Couple minutes.
35 seconds to 4 minutes.
It's a real creaks out of bed, if you ask me.
He gets in his car and using his cell phone, he calls his own house phone and leaves a voicemail message for himself, but actually it's for Leah. And he explains he had to get out of town for a day. I love you. Nothing is wrong. I have to do something.
I have to be honest, when I've never really laughed at this part, but when I watched it alone and I saw Neil Breen holding the phone to his ear while he listened to his own voice say the voicemail outgoing message, I was really laughing at that.
I also like how he snuck out so carefully only to call the loud ass landline and then have his voice play on the recorder into the house.
I didn't even think of that. That's great. He's like, I'll wake you up now. I could have just told you.
Clearly doesn't work, though. She's still dead asleep.
Maybe you could date her one day if things don't work out with Katie, Van, since you're always dating people who can't wake up.
Apparently. He spends a good long while driving through the desert before eventually coming across a very scenic area with mountains in the background as triumphant music turns to spooky drum music.
I thought the first time I watched this, okay, he's going to do whatever this big mission he's been planning the whole movie is, right?
Not just something random.
Yeah, because he sneaks out in the middle of the night and he makes a big fucking deal about it, and he's actually paid to bring his cameras somewhere new.
Well, what does he find in the desert? It's our old friend, the giant golden tome.
Well, is its buddy the big stool it sits on there too?
Or the three weird, like, cultist guys who disappear first.
Who are they?
They're gone almost as soon as he arrives.
Maybe it's the wise men.
Dylan asks them or possibly the book, because they're gone.
I feel like he's looking at the book when he says it.
He said, should I be afraid? And he goes, no. Should we be afraid? Meaning mankind.
Another trailer moment.
But then the gold book itself fades into nothing. So he goes to check on Andra at the psychotherapy park almost instantly. But before he can open the door to her office, he notices a Post-it placed on her sign, and it says, Dr. Andra is no longer here.
Did you read the fine print, the little printer? It says has returned to immortal realm.
I missed that part, but that does make sense.
You know what I found suspicious is that handwriting on that Post-it note looks a lot like David S. Lee's.
Uh-oh.
I think we have a little sabotage. She's not actually, she still works there. He just said, she's not here anymore because he figured out Dylan has seen a different therapist. So he's doing a little sneaking.
I wish there would have been a plot where David S. Lee and Andra got together.
This is a real, what's her name's mom and that Private
For sure,
Eye.
from Online 2013, yeah. Only double the ages, triple them.
David S. Lee's a little too young for her.
Yeah, he's only, 83 or 4?
Yeah.
And she's, 150?
We do watch her fade into nothing, though. That's cool.
Well, I think that had been going on for years prior.
All right. Well, Dylan's back in bed. He's asleep with Leah. It's all done. His whole day trip over.
What did he do again? What did he
He
accomplish?
went to go talk to a book and then see his therapist who's not there anymore.
It didn't work, though. It didn't seem like he got much done. It's like you drive all the way to the post office and it's closed.
Leah didn't seem to ask him about it either. Like, hey, what was that thing where you left a message for me in the middle of the night and then just came back like nothing happened?
Well, to all we know, she's just been in bed the whole time because she's still face down in the bed.
Doesn't she have
I was
neurology to
gonna
do?
say, don't you, Leah? You haven't really worked for like a couple weeks now, or do you really have that job
I
anymore?
kind of thought doctors worked a lot. That's kind of part of it. It's kind of an important job.
He's here now, and I think he's got his finger down her butt crack. He might just be placing a hand on her butt, but that's too normal.
Two different scenes where he's acting chaste. Otherwise, he does place his right hand on a butt cheek of hers. I don't know if that's in the contract. Like I do get to do that or something.
But while they're butt fingering,
Ew.
we see the feet in black guy wander around again and again, and things shake on the wall again and again. And I don't know what's happening, but whatever, it is happening in this movie.
I never did know what was happening in any of it, so this is not that different for me.
Maybe this will clear it up suddenly. A bunch of blood drips on the black feet
Oh yeah,
and then
Oh, he
disappear.
must be hurt now.
symbolism.
It probably came from his head wound.
Wow. And this strangely long scene, again, could be removed wholesale. Nothing about the movie changes.
No, it doesn't introduce or change or adapt. Nothing occurs at all.
I was confused why they brought the blood back into it.
Maybe he had extra.
Well, the following morning, Leah and Dylan wake up, and Leah finds some sort of like graduation cap tassel on her.
Those are the tassels from the end of that fucking book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
This is the first time
I
I've noticed
get it
that.
now.
Yeah, Neil Breen's good.
he's so aware of it. Well, she's like, "What's this?" And he's like, "I think we had a little visitor last night."
He says
Yeah, which
a
is
friend left
creepy.
them for us. What friend?
And
What?
Leah just kind of, "Oh, okay."
And that does kind of double down on the fact that he thinks double down. That's one of his movies on the fact that he is friends with the book because he kind of talks about the book like had a little pal. Maybe he took the book
But he
from the
ripped
desert.
a chunk off the book. He like tore an arm off the book
Basically.
and left it on her. That's metal.
Yeah, that is actually pretty cool.
Speaking of things that aren't at all normal happening, it's time for the big moment of the film. We're finally here.
Oh boy, it's not what you think it'll be.
Not even close. Dylan finally publishes his book of his most secret government and corporate secrets, and he decides to hold a press conference in front of the National Archives building in Washington, D.C.
So Dylan has traveled to Washington, D.C. now. Well, there's no preamble to that. Like there's all this build up to him going out to the desert.
Preamble?
Oh, fuck.
Oh, man. It's like you took history in school at some point.
Forefathers. That's 2 F's also.
Dylan immediately takes to the mics in front of thousands of journalists, politicians, bankers, and just plain fans of his
I'm
book.
sorry, I just saw several microphones.
Yeah.
And some kind of noise, but I'm not seeing any people.
No,
Are
they're
you
there.
sure?
They're
Okay.
there. Oh, all right. You're right. There aren't tens of thousands. There's 6.
Oh,
You
I knew
got me.
you were close.
He tells these 5 or 6 people who are all bunched up together.
And we later learn that those are like not the people who were there because they're happy about the announcement.
No, we see none of those people. We sure hear them.
But he tells everyone, I've been hacking into government and corporate secrets. Have you heard this before? Yeah, everyone claps. They know this. They're like, great. And he says, all over the country, I've been doing this. No. All over the world.
And everyone keeps applauding and freaking out, but before he's presented any evidence, hint, he never will. My second favorite part about this already is who's letting him do this?
I think he just did it. He owns all the microphones. He just set it up himself.
He sure as shit didn't dress up for the occasion.
This guy who wrote one book wants to make a big reveal about the government and about businesses. Let's let him do it.
Yeah, he didn't button his shirt for this or anything.
He says he's discovered more information than any hacker ever has, and what he's found will shock every one of you. He reveals that he's releasing his files to the public today, and there will be massive repercussions because of it. We see those massive repercussions immediately, however, as the CEO of some big company joins the press conference. He's up there by himself. He reveals his company's dirty secrets, and then he shows what he's going to do about it.
Money, payoffs, and greed were always the priority of my company.
What?
Like many companies. I'm afraid of going to prison. They now
Me too.
know my crimes.
What are they?
Money,
Secrets
corporations, and
government
greed.
secrets.
Oh.
Yeah, so he shot himself at this press conference.
Which was just par for the course. Like, the press conference went on afterwards.
Yeah, no, at this point they have to call 911, an ambulance comes. Everything's grinding to a halt, right? There's blood everywhere.
Well, it just keeps going as if nothing's happened, basically.
Oh,
because
it seems like people are still clapping?
well, they're clapping. We see a slew of various corrupt officials and government and owners and all kinds of stuff. They off themselves, all because Breen leaked their secret government and corporate secrets.
Each gives like a little brief explanation.
And they're so contrite. They're like, I shouldn't have done that.
I'm bad.
The people deserve better, and I'm gonna kill myself.
And this is treated like the big reveal, too. Like, the banks want to keep your money. Huh? I've never heard of such a thing. And my other favorite little thing is they keep flashing between whoever's going to kill themselves for their crimes and Neil Breen, yet both are standing in front of the same building in the same position.
And Breen is saying nothing new. He's saying the exact same government secrets over and over
And
again.
smiling now as people are just executing themselves one by one, which no matter what the case, this would ruin the rest of your life.
Not his. Not a lizard person.
No, he's like, this is what I was aiming for.
He's probably just waiting for when he can step down from the podium and go cradle all the bodies and wipe the blood in his hair.
We, in fact, see a senator hang himself. He does that at home, though. He doesn't do it here. We see a congressman run her car in her garage with the
So
windows
he's coming up with new ideas for these suicides.
Oh, yeah, they all kill themselves. She suffocates, of course.
It's so dark.
We see an insurance executive take a bunch of pills and immediately softly place his head on his steering wheel and die.
That was one where he's like, I can't think of another one. I'm going back to pills.
We see a Wall Street banker slit his own wrists in his bathtub. And then we see my personal favorite, which is a sad banker. Let's play that one.
I resigned today as president of the bank. We were all under pressure to operate in a deceiving way and cheat the customer. Goodbye.
There it is. Someone should have been like, will you swallow that food before you say your line?
Why do you have so much mustache in your mouth?
I especially love how his title is president of the bank.
The bank.
The bank.
Where do you work? The bank.
Yeah, and I really love the goodbyes on these two.
Goodbye.
They're so casual.
They're so proper, and everyone was like, they were clearly awful. They were doing terrible things, and they were covering it up. But then when it got revealed, they were immediately like, yes, I will confess to everything very calmly, and I will be remorseful, and then I will kill myself.
And then I'll do the least calm thing a person could do.
The entire time these fat cats are offing themselves, Dylan's repeating himself ad nauseum, like we said. The words he says are greed, fraud, and secret government and corporate secrets. I think he says each of those words a dozen times in the last 30 seconds of this movie.
I also wish that this press conference had ended with a reporter being like, oh, can we see the proof? And he's like, oh, I don't have any. And there's just corpses everywhere. They didn't even need to do it. Well, they didn't need to do it anyway. God, it's awful. If you saw a photo of this, you'd puke.
Well, at some point, a deadly sniper has taken Dylan in his sights. And we see that because we see Neil Breen standing at the archives with a sniper thing on it.
Is this that kid again?
It might be.
I think it might be.
The sniper pulls the trigger, but there's a problem. You know what Dylan has in his hand? Guess what? It's a fucking rock that he always has in his hand. And he uses magic powers to redirect the bullet to kill the kid. Now, the reason I know that...
what that is.
The reason I know that is not because the movie showed me that. It's because Wikipedia said that's what happened.
I wish that what had happened is Dylan looks shocked like he thinks he's fucked. You know, a typical movie trope.
Mm-hmm.
And then you hear the shot, but it's actually someone else shooting the sniper. And you turn over and it's Jim giving him a thumbs up. But he's like half disappeared. You know, the Neil Breen effect. So it's like it's Ghost Jim.
I mean, Ghost Jim couldn't have made this movie worse.
I do wish it had been like an actual person that shot him, you'd have to pick one of the characters from the show. It'd have to be like Allie.
Yeah.
Allie's actually
good.
like
What
a
about
government
David
spy.
S.
Why don't you take my medication?
Abracadabra. I'm even willing to have to. Neil Breen can do it the same way, but you have to show me the special effect of you redirecting the bullet.
Not just the sniper slumping over dead. Dylan finishes up his speech, and he and Leah head back out to the forest where they hear a dinosaur sound, see that wispy ghost thing, and then the movie just stops.
Yeah,
that's it.
That.
That's the end of the film.
Happily ever after? I mean, we're 30 seconds from seeing several self-executions.
But guess what? The corrupt business and corporate people, business secret men and women are dead. So the world's a better place.
Yeah. And they made it very clear that their only motives all along were fraud and greed. So it's like we're better off without them.
Now, some other people died too that weren't related to that. I'm not sure why all that was going on.
I'd say most people in this movie died.
Yeah, well, they actually did. Most people we saw died.
Would you have guessed 8 people would die in this movie?
No, because again, 30 minutes into the movie, there is no reason to believe that this is a death type movie at all. It's like if Online 2013 had started racking up the body count toward the end, which would have been pretty cool. They would have just gone to heaven, though.
Well, I watched the credits play because I wanted to see
I did too, the whole thing.
That means you saw that there were a bunch of businesses listed under things. Like, for example, the lighting design listed Lighting and Films, LLC, as who did the lighting design. For locations, they list BB Location Management. For craft services, they list Eats Film Inc. And there are a dozen of these things with just weird business names.
Do you have the literal verbatim explanation?
Yes.
Okay, good.
It scrolls down a little bit and it says, in quotes here,
read it like he would.
Any of the above listed companies in the credits with an N or a B in their name are fictitious. This work was actually done personally by Neil Breen. So he did it all, but then wrote it in the credits as someone else, but then also said, no, I really did it.
I'd like to donate this wing to my alma mater, this new library, and make it from anonymous, but write an article thanking me for it.
All right, so let's get a couple things out of the way here. Number one, is this your favorite Neil Breen movie you've seen?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, it very clearly is.
It's the best. It moves quicker.
Mm-hmm.
It is gleefully wacky in a way that some of the others aren't. Some of the others drag.
It does. That's true. Yeah, that last one we watched with the brother thing is especially guilty of that.
They're a little dull. They're a little boring.
Sometimes.
If we can't riff on them together, they're not. I mean, and that's the case with a lot of these movies, but those really suffer for it. Fateful Findings is, I think, the only one of his, and we haven't seen a couple, that really stands in that upper echelon for me.
There's a story that I always mention, the three of us. I've never gotten a chance to say it on the podcast. When we watched that movie about Cade and Kale, Brian got sick for 3 months afterwards once.
Forever. I could not stop being sick. And I think, I mean, it has to be because I watched that thing.
Probably because you didn't have a special beard.
I don't have the genes of Neil Breen.
You weren't born with great family genes, which is actually what he says.
Yeah. My bones are too put together. But yeah, this is his big work to me. I hope he equals it again.
I do think you said something very prescient in the first episode, Brian, is that maybe he needs to reinvent himself. We need to see less green screen and something else, something he can do different.
And I think he will, because him moving to
I was
green
gonna
screen
ask,
shows that.
Do you guys think he has that in him? And
I do.
I'm not so sure. I'm just not that confident in him.
You think maybe he'll just think, I struck gold, I'm going to keep doing it? And like his movies are all that now.
Yeah, I just kind of feel like he doesn't have the kind of awareness to go off of what he would consider to be like the modern and sort of final stage of it. I don't know. I don't think that he's going to be able to evaluate himself that well.
He's also so tied up in this weird messiah complex thing he has. And it kind of, especially in our today's age, it reeks a lot of, it just, something's weird about it, about this, like, this man has to do everything by himself and no one can be counted on. And every person that ever shows up in the movie is like, except for Neil Breen, is some sort of vagrant addict in his eyes. He just has a very dismal view. If you're poor, you're a pill popper, and if you're rich, you're corrupt. One of those is true.
He's definitely a my shit doesn't stink kind of guy.
And it might not.
It might not. I haven't sniffed. Again, like we said earlier, he may not even shit.
It might be like white.
Like dog poop that's been in the sun too long?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Okay, well, let me ask this, because we often find the auteurs, the ones that make these so bad it's good movies, who are weird. And really, Tommy Wiseau, Ed Wood, those are the big ones. Wiseau has leaned into it, and he's now embracing the weirdness. Breen, for the most part, still presents his movies as, this is my art. He says, I'm doing good things here. These are not bad movies. Do you think he's in on it at all?
No.
What degree does you think there is? Okay, so you guys think he's just still unaware. I believe he's in on it to a bit, simply because I watched a bit of this thing that I found, which was a 6.5 hour video. It's about how he makes his movies, and he talks early on in it about creating this concept of Neil Breen. And so he knows a little bit. Now, what that degree is, I think, is open to question. I don't think he does the green screen stuff and thinks, this is stupid, they'll eat this up.
No.
I think he's still doing it and saying, this is the best I can do. They'll see through the little bit of corniness it is to see my true genius.
They know that I have a big message underneath it all. And like, I think if you knew it wasn't Neil Breen and you heard like a serious director say something similar, like if you heard Quentin Tarantino say like, well, you know, he would probably explain it or whatever, but like in my movies, obviously I'm not going to go around mowing down 100 people and making up revised fictions of history or whatever myself, but these are my movies. When you think Quentin Tarantino, this is what you think. And maybe he kind of means it that way. Like the Neil Breen world, you know, has a certain cachet now. I'm kind of looking at him as an arrogant guy in this way. And that maybe part of him has to believe I'm selling some of these movies because people like them genuinely.
Yeah, and he is a little narcissistic and arrogant. So there is something to that. Overall, though, I think Neil Breen is a good thing for society because he's putting out these things and they are good. The new movies still are fun to watch. They're a little less exciting than, for example, Fateful Findings, but they're still worth it. And I do hope he continues making movies until he gets true death, because he's clearly died, but it hasn't taken.
This brings up another question. Is it possible for one of these auteurs to hit more than once on a true classic? Like the bad movie canon maybe doesn't support that because
it doesn't seem like you can.
Such a specific aesthetic can only shock in the perfect way once, maybe. I don't know.
I agree with that.
And that's why I just don't know how self-aware he could be about it, because once you have that element, even a small part of it, it would show in your efforts. And he still has that kind of clueless element in his films that shows that he doesn't seem to be on the joke in any form. Because once you have that, like we talked about, your results, your film results aren't going to hit in the same way or anywhere close.
That's fair.
And I think this, I'll also say, of our 3 movies this year, this is the one that ranks highest for me in my all-time when I think of like, what are the worst bad movies, or not even like most just enjoyable to watch or bizarre bad movies I've ever seen. Fateful Findings is very up there because I can't stress enough, if you haven't seen it, you should watch it at least once because it is so all over the map, even worse than what we described. And to look at it and hear it is just something.
And I do agree with you overall, but I will say this, and it's kind of an interesting concept. I will watch Miami Connection.
I agree with this.
Far more often than I will watch Fateful Findings, because this is a hard watch.
Takes a lot out of you.
This is a lot like, I listen to a lot of music I can't come back to regularly. In that case, because it's challenging and abrasive. In this case, it's just abrasive.
Well, that's going to do it for our coverage of Fateful Findings and our experience for 2024 as motion picture men.
We got to
We're done.
leave the movie theater. Let's go back into the living room where the TV is.
That's right. Maybe we'll get some other fake beards and our brothers will come and be Bootu boys. Who knows? But guess what? That means we're going back to TV and we're going back to Brian Vaughn for the next couple of weeks. So take it away, Brian. What are we doing? We're doing a normal run here of just picking our own shows.
I just feel like this is like going home. I don't know.
It is.
I
It
feel
feels
so good
good.
about it.
I do too. It feels warm, feels nice. Well, you know what? There are a couple of 1970s television shows that, for whatever the reason, really stuck with me as a child, and I watched the shit out of them. One of them was the Mary Tyler Moore Show, which we have already covered.
It was great. It was a lot of fun.
The other
There was
one,
an elephant that crushed a guy.
there
Chuckles.
was Chuckles. The other one is Taxi, which is the show we will be covering, which began in the late 1970s into the early 1980s. It's about a cab company, a lovable group of misfits who work at the cab company, but every single one of them fucking wants more out of life, man, and they're stuck in that garage together. No wonder I liked this. Anyway,
Is it a comedy? It's just like a
it's
half-hour
a comedy
sitcom, right?
that gets serious sometimes,
Okay.
and it was
So it's like Mary Tyler Moore.
very much like that, and similarly was considered ahead of its time.
I know it's beloved.
Yeah, for more in terms of as a comedy and a show than in its politics or anything. It didn't necessarily take a lot of the leaps, but it focused a lot on some interpersonal storylines and things like that. I chose the 2 episodes I did because I remembered them, and they're both really highly rated. They are from the same season 2, kind of in the creative peak of the show. The first one is Christopher Lloyd's first episode on the show.
Love Christopher Lloyd. I'm excited to see him.
Yeah. Season 2, Episode 3, Reverend Jim, A Space Odyssey. The guys run into Reverend Jim and try to get him a job, but first they have to convince Louie to hire him and help him pass the exam, Louie being Danny DeVito. Season 2, Episode 8, The Great Race. Alex and Louie engage in a friendly competition to see who can take in the most money. If Louie wins, he gets a date with Elaine.
Whoa, Jerry's not going to like that.
So those are our 2 episodes. I did watch them. I really enjoyed them, and I watched a couple more, and I'll probably watch a couple more. There's a genuine pathos to the show that I don't think was super present in a lot of shows of the era. You see it a lot more often now, or you see it aimed for a lot more.
That'll be interesting. I don't know shit about Taxi, Spencer.
Not a bit.
Yeah, I just know of it and its cultural impact, but never seen it.
It's a very sad show. Tony Danza's in it, too.
Oh, wow. Is he named Tony?
Judd Hirsch.
Oh, I like Judd Hirsch
Yeah.
with his big block head. Well, it'll be fun. Come back and stay tuned for that, I guess. But that's it for today's episode. Before we leave, check us out on patreon.com/Bootu Inc. It's all free bonus stuff on there. We're on YouTube, again, Bootu Inc. We've got all the shows up there, as well as music videos, bonus videos, etc. If you're on Apple Podcasts, give us a rate and review, or whatever platform you listen to the show, and we'll get a tattoo of a bunch of blood and maybe some feet. Maybe some corporate secret and government secrets. But we'll get that tattoo if you leave us a 5-star rate and review.
But you have to act now, as Neil Breen says.
BootuInc.com, that's our website. There's some stuff on there as well. And you can join our Discord as well as shoot us emails at bootuinc@gmail.com. What's your favorite line in the movie?
I mean,
And
honestly,
you have to say it.
it will always been, I've been writing about secret government and corporate secrets. It's such a clunky ass line.
Today, I found myself very much so enjoying it. It's an exchange between Allie and Dylan where they've already had the fight about the pool, but we don't know where they are. And she's still trying to seduce him, I guess, because she's like, I thought you liked it when I came over. And he goes, I don't.
Man, I also really do like that line when he says, you've become too reliant on pain pills for pain relief.
I'll go with the old heavy hitter and go, government secrets.
Yeah, you can't lose there.
It's a magical day. It's a magical day. I'm feeling less stable.
Leave me alone. I've got work to do.
I'm feeling less uncovered more information than any hacker ever has.
Secret government and corporate secrets.
He's been writing about
Secret government and corporate secrets.
He's been writing about
Secret government and corporate secrets.
He's been writing about
Secret government and corporate secrets.
He's been writing about I have not been writing another novel. I have been hacking into government and corporate international secrets all over the world. And I'm going to expose them all. And no one knows I'm doing it. These documents are going to change the world. No one knows but you now. But I think you're right. Others have found out what I'm doing. I can't wait any longer. I'm not ready for this.
Secret government and corporate secrets.
He's been writing about
Secret government and corporate